is in his head, but I do think that he would be open to doing this elsewhere. We'll see how this experiment goes. Washington is relatively small in terms of being a major city. Other cities, this could be more complicated in.
Well, and I also, when he was talking about having to go to Congress about, basically, for people who aren't tracking this as closely as we are, after the 30 days, which now he's on, he's got 28 days left, right, he'd have to go to Congress to continue the federal takeover of the police force here in Washington to get authorization for that. Today he seemed to suggest that maybe in his view he doesn't, right, if he declares a national emergency.
There's a very wide number of issues on which Trump has said there is some kind of a national emergency in play when, a lot of evidence would suggest otherwise. President Trump has always taken the approach to power, long before he was a candidate, Caitlin, that if you have powers before you, you are wasting them if you don't use them, even if you have to, create sort of a circumstance by which you are grabbing them. And so the administration has been criticized for using emergency powers for a number of instances where they have been, it's not clear there is an emergency or it's clear there isn't one. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he declares an emergency. He said he doesn't want to. We'll see.
Well, and speaking of, the view of that mindset of having power in front of you and not using it, I mean, this is much bigger than just what is happening in D.C. with the police force, yes, the National Guard being deployed on the streets. They're expanding that tonight, as what we've been told by the White House. He was at the Kennedy Center today. The other day he was calling it the Trump/Kennedy Center, saying, whoops. I mean, the Kennedy Center, obviously he's handpicking these nominees and these honorees that are going to get honored later on this year. I wonder what you make of that, plus the Smithsonian, just this wide lens of what exactly he has been undertaking in the last few weeks.
Look, the narrow lens in terms of the Kennedy Center honors, and specifically, say, Gloria Gaynor, who's, obviously a very talented musician, but it feels like, to some extent, an extended Trump rally playlist. The broader sense, to your question about culture, he is trying not just to leave an imprint on the type of culture that exists in Washington, D.C. and in the rest of the country, but he is trying to control what that could be. Now, what his supporters will say is that when it comes to the Smithsonian, it's just a review. They haven't done anything yet, but they actually have done a lot of things across the board in other ways that suggest exactly where their head is. And so, yes, this is they have long, the Trump administration and Republicans have long complained about cancel culture, quote unquote, but they are now imposing a different kind of cultural control.
Yeah, obviously we're following all of this really closely when it comes